Toto Wolff has opened up about the opportunity to have Verstappen in his camp now that they've secured the services of Antonelli, as it seems like the Austrian has felt the pressure that Horner's statements towards Russell have caused and decided to take immediate action. The team principal of Mercedes is adamant in his belief that the Mercedes future is safe and sound, but if Verstappen is available from 2026 onwards, will Wolff stick to his word and miss the opportunity to sign him? And if so, will this be the second time he makes a cardinal mistake regarding the three-time world champion's signature? In the past couple of weeks, we've seen some interesting statements being made from Christian Horner towards George Russell, primarily revolving around how the Brit doesn't have a contract from 2026 onwards, and that Red Bull would be silly to not look at that when they would choose their driver's lineup. This caused a fierce response from Toto Wolff, who said that Horner is just trying to stir things up because that's the best thing he does. However, a situation has now arisen in which Wolff will need to take a side. Is this the lineup with which he plans to bring championships back to the team, or will changes be required? According to the Austrian, the time of flirting with Verstappen has now stopped, and the future of Mercedes is locked in with Russell and Antonelli. Wolff has been in this sport for quite some time now and recognises when a driver is under pressure. Even though Wolff mentioned that Russell is a Mercedes driver and is obliged in a long-term fashion with them, that is technically not the reality, because the two-time race winner is yet to secure a contract beyond 2025. While many believe that this is just a technicality, the recent situation in Red Bull has provoked some interest from Wolff, who stated earlier in this season that a collaboration between Mercedes and Verstappen needs to happen sooner rather than later. But he's put all of these claims to bed now with his latest statement. When talking about the flirting between Mercedes and Verstappen, Wolff said, "We are sitting back. I think I've expressed it before, and we have a similar view from Max's side. You've got to put faith in your drivers and in your team. You need to give it the maximum support you can to make it a success, and only if things go really wrong will you consider other opportunities. For me, it's like flirting outside while you are making your relationship work. It doesn't work. I am not flirting outside. Only if I want to have a change or consider a change would I seek a conversation, and it is the same on his side. We're pretty aligned in our values with what I think." Again, it's something that Wolff has created upon himself, because he's been the man who started all of these flirtations, because of how the downfall of Red Bull has created an opportunity for Verstappen to leave the Austrian team and potentially find a new home elsewhere. Apart from Mercedes, a serious contender has emerged in Aston Martin due to the fact that they've brought two of the current Red Bull partners, Honda and Adrian Newey, and in combination with brand new factories and facilities in Silverstone, Aston Martin will definitely be an attractive market for any driver, not just Verstappen. Still, Wolff now believes that the future of his team lies with Antonelli and Russell, and while the news has revolved a lot around the young Italian driver because of the fact that he's perceived as the next Verstappen, and the tests he's done in Austria and Italy have impressed people like Bono and James Allison, that doesn't mean Russell's spotlight should be stolen away. With two DNFs in races where his teammate won both of the events, Russell is still keeping himself very close behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship, primarily because of the fact that he's been able to out-qualify him 13-5 in 2024. Of course, the email allegations are something that Mercedes will very unlikely beat in the upcoming future, as Hamilton's fortunes have really turned around at this point. But be that as it may, Wolff is now adamant that the next leader of the team is Russell, despite the circumstances in which he received this role. Elaborating on this, Wolff said, "George has a similar trajectory as Antonelli in terms of karting and junior formula, and George was the first Mercedes junior that joined us. He is still our Mercedes driver. We don't make a big difference between him and Antonelli. Emotionally, we give them the same support. Nothing changes." Every top driver in Formula 1 knows that he needs to compete against their teammate, whether he is young or old. George's teammate has been Hamilton, the greatest driver of all time for 3 years, so he will be just fine competing against one of the youngest who comes in with great expectations. Still, most of these statements come from a forced nature, because it's right when Horner started to flirt with the availability of Russell that Wolff has finally understood that this is the driver who is supposed to lead the team in a new direction from 2025 onwards. Of course, the made-up statement from Bradley Lord, who is the chief of communication for Mercedes, didn't help, as it emerged that Bradley reportedly said Russell and Antonelli will fight for the seat in 2025, and whoever loses will lose it to Verstappen. After Wolff's latest statement, it's now set in stone that Russell will be the leader of Mercedes if he manages to outperform Antonelli, who managed to shock everybody with his performance in different F1 machinery in Italy and Austria. This is why the team is not paying attention to how his Formula 2 campaign is going, and this is why Wolff didn't want to miss the opportunity to sign the second coming of Verstappen for the second time in a row. But according to Nico Rosberg, the pressure was definitely on Wolff's shoulder to make a statement about Russell's availability after Horner's statement, as the 2016 champion believes that Horner knew exactly what he was doing by saying that Red Bull could and should go for Russell once the new regulations start. When talking about this, Rosberg said Horner's statements are all politics and strategy because he wants to unsettle Toto, and if Toto suddenly hears Horner talking about Russell and Russell doesn't have a contract, Toto might be thinking, oh damn, should I be trying to get an option on George or what? And it's unsettling, so it's always part of the game, isn't it? I mean, George doesn't have a contract for 2026, and so Christian could be really naughty and just try and really, snatch him away from there and try and lock him in through contract already now. I don't know if George would even be interested, but it does add the pressure for Toto. Obviously, Russell has welcomed Verstappen as his teammate earlier this year when the rumours emerged, but little did he know that Antonelli would have risen to Formula 1 so quick, which is why now the narrative has shifted in favour of Russell being the replaced driver if a scenario like this comes in sooner rather than later. Again, Wolff's statement is more or less confirming that it won't. But if we're to look at how Mercedes handled the entire situation with Hamilton, it would be easy to understand why we are approaching this situation with a bit more caution than usual. If Russell demands something that Mercedes might not be able to fulfill, and if Verstappen's availability is clearly there, the favour is in the hands of the Silver Arrows, because they're the ones who have a ready replacement, a championship material of a driver to put right in the seat of Russell. What all of this does is keep things entertaining and at the very knife edge with our nerves, because Marco has hinted earlier in the season that if Max is unhappy with Red Bull, then he will leave the team for a place where he could win. However, he stated that right now the team seems to be Aston Martin and not Mercedes, which is why if the Brackley-based squad wants to be in contention for Verstappen's signature, they need to be at the top of their game when it comes to understanding the car and the upgrades they are bringing, similar to what McLaren has done in 2023 and 2024. Their first shot will be in Austin, where the team plans on bringing upgrades that will revolve primarily around the front wing and the floor of the car. And if that proves to be working just fine, then Mercedes could very well find themselves competing for a podium finish or maybe even a race win. With all this in mind, what do you think about Wolff's latest statements on Verstappen and putting the flirting rumours down? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.